Donald Trump and MAGA claim to represent traditional masculinity, with Donald Trump as the true alpha male, the man who will stand up to other world leaders, get what's best for America and for Americans. But is this actually true? I don't think so. I actually think MAGA is best explained as the rise of the cowardly beta males complaining and crying about their lowly status in society today because they find it unfair. And they actually reject almost all traditional traits of strength and masculinity. And that's exactly why, when confronted with a true alpha male like Volodymyr Zelensky, they can't help but cry and complain and attack him. They absolutely hate Zelensky. And they love instead Vladimir Putin, who Donald Trump and MAGA can't do anything more than bend the knee and kiss the boot because Putin tries to portray himself as this alpha male, this tall, strong man. He's an authoritarian dictator. But what does Trump do, the alpha male? He bends over backwards and kisses his boot and then blames the leader of Ukraine, who was invaded by Russia. And the Vice President J.D. Vance is probably the lead beta cuck of the entire Republican Party right now. Have you said thank you once? And yes, the above quote is perfect. They think this is a legendary quote. No, this is bitching and complaining from a beta male. This is absolutely just complaining and crying like a baby at the highest degree. Not to mention, we already know that Zelensky has thanked Americans and American leaders multiple times. He actually even went on to thank the Donald Trump administration after that disaster of a meeting at the White House. But they can't stand the fact that Zelensky didn't just let them lie about the war, didn't let them lie about the fact that Putin invaded Ukraine, and Putin hasn't obeyed peace treaties in the past. So he's wanting the Americans to provide him some security when Putin disobeys the next peace treaty. But if you really think that this is an alpha male quote, have you said thank you once? I want you to look at a quote from Zelensky. I need ammunition, not a riot. That could have taken place in a Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone action flick, and it wouldn't be out of place. Zelensky is what a real alpha male looks like. He is the leader of a country that's been invaded by a foreign power, and he hasn't run from it, and he has led Ukraine. And here's the thing, Trump's lying. He is not a dictator. He's popular in Ukraine, has a higher approval rating in Ukraine than Donald Trump has here in America, which Trump's approval rating here in America is like 46%, just so you know. And the reality is, Zelensky's approval rating in America is above 50% as well. And most Americans do, in fact, support Ukraine, and they oppose Putin. And this comes to the crux of the entire MAGA and Trump movement. It's always been a rebellion of mediocre men against the status quo, which doesn't rate them as highly as they wish they were. And the reality is, they are the perfect example of where, when you're used to inequality, equality now feels like discrimination. They think because they're white Protestant men that they should be valued higher than other people in society. But there's nothing about that that means they should. And the fact of the matter is, just because they're aggressively unintelligent doesn't mean that they get to dismiss facts and evidence, such as on the war in Ukraine. Russia started it. It's Putin's fault, and it's Putin that needs to come to the table and make concessions because he's the one that started the war. He is the aggressor, and he is the one in the wrong. And frankly, he should be tried as a war criminal.